What is going on, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Betting the NFL week number 11. And as always, here with me is my co host, Derek Wedley, also known as DWeezy. What is going on, man?
Another week ready to dive into these lines and see what we can find. You know, getting back into the action. Another week rolling on upon us, and I think there's some good angles and plays that we might be able to find out there this week.
Yeah, we will have our five best bets of the week coming up soon enough. But before we get into those, we have to recap what happened in week 10. And to start that off, we'll go over some of the trends, um, at least the ones that stood out to me. And one of them was the weight teams 8, 5, and 1 in week number 10, 61.5% winning percentage against the spread, and away favorites, um, 4 and 2, 66% winning percentage against the spread. And overall, away teams have been getting an edge over the home teams, or at least the away favorites have. 36, 27, and 1, 57% winning percentage overall. That is the away favorites. Um, seven and over and under is still kind of split in week 11, seven overs, seven unders, but still overall in the season we see 70 over 67 unders. So still teams have been scoring a lot of points. So I would keep betting overs on that side of things. But anything stick out to you? Your mic's muted.
Oh, there we go. We pointed it out at the beginning of the year that home favorite, or excuse me, road favorites were something to watch out for. So I'm not shocked that we saw that come into play this weekend. And with some of these matchups, you definitely got to make sure. You're potentially talking about better teams going into a lesser team's house to play an away game, and in those matchups, you might be potentially able to catch, a better team that, on an off week where the line might be lower than where it should be, and you're able to capitalize on that. But it is definitely worth noting and paying attention to some of these road favorites as we move on through the weeks. We pointed it out at the beginning of the year, and it's been true throughout the season so far.
All right. Go over all records of the week. And we'll start with mine. I had an okay week, not terrible. 2, 2, and 1, 500 all the way around. Um, my best pick was the Lions, -8 at the Commanders. They win it 44-22. This was easy money for me. The line, wasn't at double digits, which was just too good, to pass up. No doubt, I really just no doubt in my mind that the Lions would rebound after their loss to the Vikings in a big way. No matter who they played, honestly, but they just happened to play a really, really bad Washington team with all their injuries, with Jaden Daniels out, with their defense just being old and bad. I knew Dan Campbell would want to run it up. That's exactly what he did, and they put it on Washington, putting up 44 points, and yeah, it's one of the easiest covers of the season for me. It's not like the Mariota played bad or anything. It's just they didn't really have the ball a lot. Um, they get ran all over, um, and yeah, they couldn't muster enough points to keep pace with the Lions just because they don't have much over there in Washington. So yeah, it was a pretty easy win for me. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I was involved with this Detroit game. We were both expecting a lot of firepower on Detroit's side, so neither of us are really surprised that we saw them put up the points that we did. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for me. I needed Laporta to find the end zone. Unfortunately, everybody else decided to find the end zone. This has been one of the issues with trying to target one of a team like Detroit that has so many weapons offensively. You don't know who's going to get the ball. You don't really have that mainstay weapon necessarily. So it can be a little bit hit or miss trying to target some of these, whether it be wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, whatever you're talking about trying to get into the end zone. Um, so I did find a loss there, coming in at 1-4. I thought the week was getting to a pretty good start Sunday. You know, in the international game, had the Colts, uh, Taylor going over on his total yards prop. I did mention that it was possible that he could cover that just rushing. Clearly, that happened, but going off for pretty much a career day all the way around. And unfortunately, seen my luck, decided to stay overseas with the Colts, as ended up, coming in with not a single loss for the rest of the week. I mean, excuse me, a single win for the rest of the week. But hey, that's the beauty of the NFL. There's another week coming around, and we're ready to get back into these lines.
Absolutely. Talk about the good. Now we got to talk about the bad. And my worst pick was the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 1.5 at the Texans. They lose at 29-36. For again, then we can say what's up to my dad. Say what's up to Jay. What's going on? But yeah, I thought this game was you know crazy that it didn't move. Even after the news came out that CJ Stroud was out, I thought this was a great pick for me. I thought this had a ton of value with the Jaguars. Apparently, Vegas knew something that I did not, and that they did not change the point spread. It stayed pretty much the same. And yeah, Trevor Lawrence again uh, disappoints. Only scored with two offensive touchdowns in this game. Had to settle for a bunch of field goals, and they got the punt return for a touchdown. Then the Jaguars defense completely collapsed in the fourth quarter. Um, and it's just crazy that it happened to Davis Mills, who led three straight touchdown drives. One was for like 13 plays, 65 yards. Another one was for 14 plays, 93 yards. Yeah, he was great and late in the game. Um, I just there's no way I could have anticipated that kind of performance out of Davis Mills, or the Texans overall. Yeah, and it was just one of the worst beats of the season. Uh, with a point and a half point spread, we're getting a point and a half with the Jaguars. They still could have covered. They still could have covered 29-30 with 7 seconds left in the game, and Will Anderson just has to sack him. Lawrence fumbles the ball, and the Texans take it in for a touchdown. Just a just a brutal beat there. Yeah, and Jay also, yeah, Davis Mills was slinging it. He was, yeah, just a horrible beat for me. Had a chance to even cover it, but yeah, it was my worst play of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, everybody knows about fans leaving a game early when you're up big, but I don't think I've ever seen a defense leave early quite like what we saw Sunday. 20, what was it, 26 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's insane. There's no excuse. There's no reasonable explanation. I mean, it's that simple. Anybody, where this number closed, we talked about it last week. This number opened with the Jaguars being a favorite. The number closed, or excuse me, they were the underdog. The number closed with them as a favorite. But regardless of where you got the number at, the Jaguars lost outright. Just simple. It definitely has to go down as possibly the worst beat of the season. People were trying to make their way to the window to cash those tickets, only to find out that the Jaguars choked yet again. Like, I mean, that's what the Jaguars do, whether it be the playoffs, regular season. This is not the first time we've seen this team struggle to put away a victory when they're up big. And unfortunately, all the Jaguar backers out there ended up catching one vicious L with this one.
All right. Your did yours.
Um, DJ Moore probably could have maybe brought in at least a catch this past weekend. We saw a few TDs go up for the Chicago Bears in their game. We saw the offense, struggle a little bit, but for the most part, figure it out. However, DJ Moore did not find himself a part of that equation. I believe he only had 2 targets in the game, unable to acquire any catches. So, for anybody like me with any sort of yardage prop over, you were dead in the water pretty much most of the game.
Jay says the Bears receivers confuse me. Um, yeah, I mean, do they have like a true number one, or I don't know if it's a guy that Caleb Williams like really likes to go to. Yeah, they that could be a receiving confusing receiving core.
Yeah, I mean, as far as a number one, you'd like to make the argument for DJ Moore, but unfortunately, he's never been really able to separate himself in that fashion.
At least on the
Um,
Bears,
yeah,
he
but
hasn't
also
like
some of that,
as much on the Panthers.
yeah, and it could be, Ben Johnson's philosophy to a certain degree. I imagine that we'll start to see the Bears' offense more resemble what we've seen built in Detroit with his time there. And we're talking about, a multi headed weapon with Detroit's offense. And I think that's what we see Ben Johnson trying to build in Chicago. So it does add to that volatility of trying to figure out, players week to week.
All right, and that will be our recap of week number 10. Before we get into our best bets, if you guys can go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel already if you haven't already. If you really want to help us out, you can donate. You can do that in a few ways: coffee, Patreon. The links are in the description down below. So go ahead and do that. We would very much appreciate it, and we very much appreciate you for watching. Now we'll get into it. What was your record?
1-4.
104. Okay, so I went 2-2. I have the winning. Well, not I didn't even have winning record, but I had the better record. So I will be starting it off, and I'm gonna start off with the Commanders at the Dolphins. The first game on Sunday, Dolphins minus 2.5. And I'll be laying the points with Miami. I'm betting on another international game. I had some success with it. Um, the Dolphins have won 2 of the last 3 games. They don't seem as done as I thought they were. I thought they were losing a lot. Thought they were packing it in, but hey, they came out. They had a great win against the Bills. Huge upset. One of the most surprising upsets of the weekend. The command. What we okay? Ferris is here, and we can hear him. So we can't see him. So I don't know what he wants us to do. Are you coming on, Ferris?
Oh,
Okay, he can't hear us, and his mic is coming through. Okay. Well, I don't know if anybody else can hear, but we can hear him, and he needs to mute his mic. Um, but I'll keep going on to Miami Dolphins. You know, the Commanders have allowed 28 points or more in 4 straight losses. Shane Daniels probably another week out. It wouldn't matter anyway. This Commanders team, okay, they can't hear Farrah, so we're all good here. Um, yeah, I believe the Dolphins will be able to throw it over the top on them and exploit this terrible Commanders defense. These are 2 bad teams, but I think it's pretty clear who will win in this one. Uh, I think the Dolphins win by double digits. Washington 0-5 against the spread in the last 5 games. So definitely like the Dolphins to win big in this one. They obviously they're not these are two bad teams, but we can see who's playing better, and it's Dolphins.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on this one. We've really seen this Washington team struggle, especially with Daniels being out. And I think that only adds to more the pressure on their defense there in Washington. And that's one of the big reasons why I'm going to, you know, Achan over on his rushing prop, going over 79.5 yards in this game. He's covered this number in the past 5 weeks in a row. We've seen Washington get averaging almost 135 yards a game, giving up in the run game. Also, we're talking about Washington giving up over 4.5 yards a carry. These are things you like to see where, yes, the Dolphins haven't been a run heavy team, but we've seen Achan, especially in the past few weeks, be utilized more in the run game, and especially against some of these weaker rushing defenses out there. He's been able to expose them and rack up yardage with his speed and his explosiveness. If he's able to get into space, he's able to break off a big run, 60, 70 yards, take it to the house. So this number being, slightly on the high side maybe, but he's easily gone over 100 yards multiple times this season. So definitely comfortable taking the over 79.5 here.
All right, like that one. Get to my next pick, and I will be taking the Bucks plus 5.5 at the Buffalo Bills. Um, both teams want to rebound after the losses last week, but one loss was much more worse than the other. Obviously, I just talked about it. Bills lose in devastating fashion. Really bad loss to the Dolphins. Baker, has had a really good season, despite the injuries that the Buccaneers have had. I still think they got the better weapons than Josh Allen. I trust Tampa to um, move the ball more in this one, and in this spot, because the Bucks, I just feel better about the roster overall. I think that's why the Bills have regressed. Their defense not as good, weapons are not as good. So you see it reflecting their record. They're just not that good of a team anymore. The Bucks also have a +8 turnover margin, which should play well with them going on the road. I think it will be a really close game, which is why Bucks 5.5 is like gold to me. So yeah, I think it's a lot. Definitely think that they recover in this one. Bucks 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 games, and Bills 2-5 in the last 7. So taking the Bucks and getting the points.
Yeah, this was a matchup that I was looking at, potentially with Bucky Irvin and a return from injury. It being this early in the week, I decided, to hold off. But we have seen running backs be able to attack this Bills defense. And really, it's been the defense of the Bills that has hurt them over the course of the season when the offense hasn't been able to step up and put up points. These have been the games where we've really seen the defense get exposed. I think that's part of what we saw last week. The offense wasn't able to perform up to par, and the defense was exposed, by an offense that, even without a Tyreek Hill out there, still has plenty of weapons and an offensive scheme that's able to expose, uh, mistakes by defense, and that's what we saw, and that's a big reason why the Dolphins were able to put up as many points as we saw. We've seen other teams throughout the season put up points against this Bills defense, so getting that many points on the spread with the Bucks, definitely easy to lean more towards Tampa winning, at least covering the spread in this game, if not potentially winning outright.
Yep.
Now going to my next play, we're going to a hot team this season, and that's going up to New England. where we got Stephon Diggs, anytime TD, plus 135. The Pats come into this week with the off, uh, second in offense when it comes to completion percentage, yards per completion, yards per attempt. We've really seen this offense explode in the past couple of weeks. Stephon Diggs has been a big part of that, reaching the end zone in the past 3 weeks each. So being able to get this number at plus 135 still on the plus side of things. We like trends, and when we're talking about a team that's playing hot, that's playing well on the offensive side of the ball, going up against a bad Jets defense, they're giving up over 10 yards per completion. So a lot of reasons to like a prop like this, where we're talking about Diggs reaching the end zone again, and if they're going to put up a plus number on it, yes, I'm definitely going to lean towards taking that over something else. So, yes, give me plus 135 on Stephon Diggs to score another TD this week.
And you might really like it because I don't have that game. So that might bode well for you if you take that, because it
Yes,
seems like the
fingers
ones that we
crossed.
are both on don't really work out too well. Um, all right, I'll get to my next pick. I got the Lions plus 2.5 at the Eagles. Lions responded very nicely to the loss of the Vikings. They obviously blew out the Commanders. The Eagles barely squeaked by in that Monday night game against the Packers, just win it 10-7. Dan Campbell took over play calling. On the offensive side, they're not six, they're now 6-3, and I definitely trust Lions offense much more than that Eagles offense, especially after what we saw against the Packers. Eagles have their issues, especially with AJ Brown. I mean, he's going out there complaining on Twitch how much he wants the ball and doesn't want to be on this team. So that might be good, good distraction for them. Might lean towards the advantage for the Lions. Lions are getting the 2.5, so I'll definitely take the points there. Eagles defense has obviously looked pretty damn good, but the Lions ran all over that Commanders defense. Even though they're not very good, I still think that Lions can get their run game going. Um, and I think that's what's gonna get them some explosive plays. Lions 6-2 against the spread last 8 games. Eagles only 2-2 against the spread at home. So I think they can be vulnerable at home, and I think they will be. And the Lions will cover that 2.5.
Yeah, this Philly offense has just seemed broken all season. I mean, there's been no real reason or explanation that you can put on it. Yes, there's been some minor injuries throughout the season, but we're still talking about a team that has basically, the best, if not one of the best running backs in the league, a wide receiver core that probably sits at the top of the league. And these are all reasons you would expect this offense to be able to excel. You have what many would consider a good slash great quarterback. So there's not really any reason you would expect this offense not to be able to put up points and reach the end zone, and that hasn't been the case, especially these past few weeks. So, you talk about going up against a team like Detroit Lions, where yes, they've had a little bit of their own struggles, but you're talking about an offense with, as I mentioned earlier, has the weapons that they do. It's a question of who are you going to take away. Will they be able to get to Golf in the backfield? Will they be able to stop the run game? And you know, is there a scenario where Philly can win this game? Yes, I think their defense can keep them in this game, but the ultimate question is going to be: does that offense actually show up? And if we can't get that, I think even in a low scoring game, we're going to see Detroit win outright. Now going to my next play, going to got to go to my Panthers this week. Got to fade them. Played around with this in the past, but can't pass this up. Going to Drake London over on his receiving yardage prop over 74.5 yards. He's gone over 100 yards for the last 5 games. Things really, at least from a statistic standpoint, heated up the past few weeks for him in the offense. And he's going up against a Panthers defense. They, yes, is a very zone heavy defense and how they like to call plays and schemes. And London has excelled within going up against zone coaches this season. That combined with we've seen a little bit of injuries and things like that over the course of linebacker position and kind of in that core of the defense. We've seen other teams be able to take advantage of the middle of the field against the Panthers. These are reasons, got to like this number. Doesn't necessarily have to go for a big play, can rack up 6, 7 receptions in this game, somewhere around 8, 9 yards to catch, something like that. But I would not be shocked if we see him, potentially rein in a couple deep throws. The Panthers have struggled getting to the quarterbacks this season. The pass rush has not showed up in a lot of games. And you give any quarterback time, the wide receivers are able to develop those deeper routes. And it doesn't take many connections to potentially clear a receiving yardage.
Jay says JC bounce back game. I don't think. I mean, obviously, by your bet,
Well,
you don't think so.
Well, actually, that's something that really doesn't affect a play like this because we're talking about a player that can operate out of the slot, and JC is not a cornerback that travels. So there are plenty of ways to scheme Drake London open, or at minimum, get him to a position to where you don't have JC Horn covering him.
All right, and Jay says Scourton adds the sack total.
Scroton, I believe there could be a potential for that. Um, he's definitely been a highlight of the rushing, or excuse me, the pass rush this season. Rookie, I believe he was second round draft pick. Um, one of those surprise hits where, yes, you're getting that production that you'd like to see out of rookie, where, not necessarily eye popping, but he's showing up week to week. He's making plays. He's definitely making a difference, getting into the backfield. So, I definitely think there's a potential that he could add a sack. Those are one of those markets where if you can find an angle, he has wrapped up a couple sacks this season. I don't have his total in front of me, but if I'm not mistaken, I feel like he got a sack in the first game in the Atlanta matchup, but I could be wrong on that. But there is potential to find a good number on something like a sack prop.
All right. My next bet will be my Dallas Cowboys minus 3.5 at the Las Vegas Raiders. Um, no, it hasn't looked good in the last 2 games for my Cowboys, and it hasn't been just the defense either. The offense hasn't looked great either. But I think after we made some trades, we got Quentin Williams, got Logan Wilson, as well as going into the bye week getting some rest, and we finally see the debuts of DeMarvio Overshone and Siobhan Revel. I mean, I have to believe that this defense will be improved with those additions to the defense. Um, but how much it will be improved remains to be seen. Um, Now the offense has to get back to what they were in the prior weeks, um, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to do that against the very lowly Raiders. Um, I think at least we can do what the other teams have been doing to the Raiders, because they don't seem to be doing anything right on either side of the ball. I think we've been able to run on their defense and control the time of possession, and they won't really get the ball enough to exploit our defense enough. And I think that's why we will cover the spread. And also, um, I'm going to be at this game, so I have to finally see the Cowboys win in person. And I don't know how many more opportunities I'm going to have to bet on the Cowboys. So I mean, against the Raiders seems like the perfect time to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I like this matchup so much that I'm right there with you because I'm on Lamb to score a TD in this matchup plus 120. I mean, really, there's nothing about this Raiders team that you can point at and look at that makes you feel excited that they're going to win this game. Now, yes, anything can happen any given Sunday. We see it week to week. We saw Miami beat Buffalo last week. We see upsets all the time. I don't see Dallas being that game. That being said, we're talking about a Dallas team that, second in passing yards in the league. They do lean towards the pass and attack when it comes to getting in the end zone, but about 65% of the total TDs scored this year coming through the air so far. And we got a quarterback with, Dak, who's throwing nearly 70% this season. So if we can get the passing game rolling in this matchup, which basically means can you keep Max Crosby off of Dak Prescott in this game? And if you can do that, I think Prescott's going to be able to pick apart the defense. And all I need is one. Dak being, excuse me, Lamb being the big physical target that he is. I do think that's going to work to his advantage in this matchup. So whether it be from the red zone or a potential deep bomb, you know, Lamb at a plus number, definitely like that. So plus 120 CD Lamb.
Jay says I expect Quentin Williams to wreck that O line. Hopefully, hopefully he can do that. I mean, we traded a lot to get him. Um, I expect him to make a quick impact. He's had the bye week to get acclimated to the defense. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't just get off right off the bat and get rolling. And he also says can't wait to see pictures. We'll see if we win. Otherwise, we're just gonna see like a frowning face at the end of the game. So,
Then there better be pictures.
all right, you're next. Bet.
All right, yeah. Going into my last one for this week, going to, the journeyman of the NFL, Mr. Joe Flacco, who's going up against a horrible pass defense in Pittsburgh this coming weekend. And I mean, really, even in his elder statesman age, Flacco has really shown an ability to pick apart some of these lesser defenses. And I think that's what we're going to see take place this week and go with the over 260 and a half pass yards. Pittsburgh is 32nd in pass yards given up this season. They're really banged up. They just signed Asante Samuel Jr. off the streets to try and at least add some depth to a secondary that's been really depleted with injury so far this season. On top of that, we haven't seen much quality play out of the secondary of the Steelers a lot this season. And the last time Flacco went out there against this defense, he went for 342 yards. So only needing to get over 260. Talking about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins going out there, and Flacco has shown no fear in trying to get these guys the balls. They are the playmakers. They have shown that ability to go, whether it be a jump ball or find space. And Flacco is the savvy veteran that knows how to get the ball to said playmakers. So, with this number being as low as it is, given what we saw in the last matchup, definitely like going with the over 260 and a half.
Yeah, the only problem with that, like Flacco does get hot like for a few games, and then you just never know when it's going to end because it will end eventually when he goes back to being Flacco, but you just don't know when it's going to happen. So that would be the only trepidation I would have with that one because he could go back and just be like crap and not be able to even get it to you know one of the best receivers. But um, the Steelers defense hasn't been great this season, so maybe it won't be this week. Um, Next we got the it says Jay, will Chase break the Steelers cornerback's ankles again? What do you think about that?
I mean, it's possible. We're talking about Jamar Chase. I mean, I would not be surprised at all. It's a division game, so there's definitely bad blood there, whether there is bad blood or not. So you give somebody like Jamar Chase a chance to go out there and embarrass somebody. I do not think he will pass up the opportunity.
All right. For my final bet of the week, I got the Seahawks at the Rams. Rams -3. I'm going to lay the points with the Rams. I went back and forth. I didn't know whether to take the points or give the points. Decided on the Rams. I just feel that Matt Stafford is, he's looking pretty damn good. Well, probably the best he's ever looked. I like the Rams specifically because that combination of Stafford and how he's played, obviously, through this season, with a combination with Sean McVay. I just think that's a better combination than Donald and McDonald. Stafford has, um, a lot to work with as well. Like he's working with plenty of weapons in the receiving core, has a nice running game to back him up. Stafford has 13 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the last 3 games. I just trust him more. I just trust him more, especially in big games. We saw Sam Darnold in big games last year in the final couple of games of the season. It did not work out for him, kind of melted down there. And so I like, and obviously we've seen Stafford win a Super Bowl. So in the big games like this, um, and a divisional rivalry, I just got to go with the better quarterback and the one I can trust more. And that just happens to be with the Rams. Rams 5-1 last 6 game against the spread. So I think they're on track to continue that trend and cover that 3 points.
Yeah, coming into the season, there were concerns about Stafford and his health, and we've seen none of that. And outside of those potential health concerns, there's no reason to not back Stafford going through this season. We see him potentially fighting for the MVP. Heading some of the betting markets out there, top three, top five position. Um, like I said, he stayed upright. We hadn't heard, even the slightest bit of anything about injury. And as long as he stays upright in a McVay offense, I think he's going to be able to have success. You still got Puka going out there. You got Devontae Adams. Um, you got multiple threats with the tight end position. You got Williams in the backfield. And we've seen the defense really turning around and not necessarily playing, stellar defense, but defense good enough to more than win you games. And I think that's what we've seen the Rams be able to do a lot this season. And given the injuries and the lack of depth that we're seeing with San Fran, definitely like the Rams in this matchup.
All right, last bet.
Well, now we got through all five of mine.
All four. Oh, we did.
I don't
Okay.
know how we did it, but we did
Oh well,
because I
that's
was
good.
looking over them. We own a couple of the same games, which fingers crossed. Say your prayers because now that I'm sweating already.
Uh,
The game ain't even started playing. Sweating already.
all right. Well, then I guess that's the show.
Mhm.
Y'all say betting out there. Only bet what you can afford to lose. And I always we appreciate you for watching. You can find me at NFLCab22 on Instagram and Twitter/X. And you can tell everybody where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yeah, y'all can get at me at the Yard Bets on Twitter, and also, you can check out some of the articles and things doing on the LGR website. Currently working on something that I hope to have up in the next couple of days, and potentially some other things in the works.
Yeah, tune in Friday. Me and Ferris will be doing Good Friends, Better Rivals um, at 5 o'clock, talking about the Cowboys versus the Raiders and the Giants versus the Packers. So we'll preview those games. Like I said, I will be at the Raiders game, so definitely you can also find me there as well. But yeah, like I always say, let's get ready to make that money.